What a great track. No, give it a couple minutes for people to get online. All of that jazz. And oh, look, someone's watching. Oh, God. Some people are punctual. It's strange. I don't appreciate it. Give it a few minutes for things to get going and go from there. Man, if I had an actual audience, it'd be great. Not going to happen for a while. And they're gone. Not someone real. That's who is watching. Not someone real. You putting fresh basil on a frozen pizza?
What's wrong with that? It lightens it up.
Perfectly ruining the use of perfectly fine basil. Except that we need to use the basil. Yes, not the point, honey. I'm aware of how much basil we have and how much we need to use it.
Also, that's literally how you do to freshen up like frozen pizzas and stuff. It's perfect.
You know how I do to freshen up frozen pizza?
What?
Make real pizza.
No, you never make real pizza. You just buy Domino's.
No, I make real pizza. I just haven't in a while. Don't make me make dough.
Please do, because I've never seen it.
This is the problem with being a former chef and now married to someone. They want you to make dough. Don't give in. Don't make the dough. Anywho, so here to talk a little bit more about Plot of Conquerors, the campaign that I've been running and will hopefully be publishing and selling soon. That would be great. So we talked a little bit last time about character creation, the town that they started in. The characters for this tale are Matt, played by Zach. The antisocial, non-social person who wants to make a guitar that lives in town. Smalls, the halfling, played by my sister Beth. The teeny tiny halfling who is the singer for said band that Matt is in. Taco, the human drug dealer. I never really figured out exactly what his role was in town. Played by Christian, and Charity, the human healer, played by my wife Courtney, who dies a lot and is going to die in this adventure as well. And Ursa, the woman who lives on kind of the outside of town with her family near the forest, played by my friend Ashley. So I introduced that it is the beginning of the Harvest Festival. You know, the festival will go late into the evening as the fire burns down, and ask the players where they are. So naturally, Smalls and Zach are playing. Smalls and Matt. God, I need to write that better. I hope I didn't mess it up everywhere. Smalls and Matt are playing a set in the middle of town nearby the bonfire. Taco is out in the crowd, hyping them up and super excited for his friends. Ursa is by the abandoned mansion, kind of trying to see if tonight would be the night that she would finally break in. And Charity is at the temple to Pelor, healing people and getting ready for the end of harvest and the beginning of winter. They are celebrating. Everything's going great. The fire's beginning to burn down. Everyone's super excited. The set ends, so the band goes out. The Smalls goes into the visiting fortune teller's cabin / mobile house. And Matt is standing guard outside. The other three are kind of where they were before when suddenly fires break out all around the town. You can hear screaming, you can hear burning, and you can tell something malevolent is near. And I ask the players, one question. What do you do? Now, at this point, I gave the players 3 rounds. They were able to get weapons, armor, whatever they could find, and told them, you will have goblins on top on this map in 3 rounds. So that's your opportunity. Taco asked if he had a knife on him. I said, sure, probably. Charity said, I have a knife on me. I said, sure, probably. Sounds good. They're kind of crap. They'll add 1 damage, not even a D4, to whatever your strength modifier is. So you're not going to do much with them. They said, nope, sounds great. Don't need to go looking. Cool. Okay. Smalls player was actually not present for this session. So I had Smalls freaking out, losing his mind, absolutely like catatonic in his, how will we survive? Oh my God, something's happening. And so Matt held his makeshift guitar thing by its neck, picked up Smalls and said, I'm running. And Ursa met up with Taco and Charity and said, well, I guess we should run. Now, I have run this particular part of this adventure 4 times now. The original time, a week later, with a slightly different group that ended up joining up with that group. The next time that I actually ran the adventure in full, and now this time. All 3 previous times, they have asked, where can I find something to hit things with? Where can I find something used as a shield? Something like that. This group said, nope, I'm out. So Matt just ran. He said, how bad is the fire? I said, it's everywhere. You have no way of telling how bad it is, and you're pretty sure it'll be impossible to get out of town without suffering at least some burns. He said, nope, don't care. Smalls is freaking out. I'm his best friend. I'm grabbing him, and we're running. And that's exactly what he did. He ran. I made him make some intelligence checks, something like that, just to figure out best way out of town. Maybe it was wisdom. I don't remember. He failed the first one. I said, okay, roll me a D6 fire damage. He luckily only rolled a 2 because he only had 5 hit points, I think. So not exactly a great situation for him. And he went running. The next 2 times I made him make 3 checks. The next 2 he succeeded. I said, okay, you take 1 fire damage just because you're still surrounded, but it's not a D6. And he got out of town. Just barely. I'm honestly still confused how it worked, but it worked. The other 3 said, okay, well, we're going to try and figure out some way to get out of here. And so their first round was spent getting together. Their second round was spent going, okay. If we go to the east, then we're heading to the forest. If we go to the west, we're heading towards the mountains. If we go north, it's towards the capital. If we go south, it's towards the port city. There's fire everywhere. What do we do? How can we even get out? Is it safe? I'm like, honestly, it's probably not. They're going to be on top of you soon. And they said, okay. And I said, okay, that was your second round. And third round, what are you doing? And they said, okay, we're going north. We're going north. And they started heading out, but we're not able to reach the edge of, my map by the end of the round. And so kind of went from there. So talk about the town a little bit. You got town center with, with a big bonfire in the middle. Outside of that, a little, ring before you get into shops and things. Quadrant up here with temples and I think a general store. Maybe it was just the temples. Up over here, a blacksmith shop and maybe the general store or something like that. Down over here, you've got the fortune teller's cabin and and the current mayor's house. And then over here, you've got the abandoned mansion and a granary. Now, if you know anything about granaries, like one of my players actually did, you know that granaries are incredibly volatile. So if they were to, say, be lit on fire, they tend to explode. Flour under pressure or under any pressure and heat is incredibly volatile and will explode quite explosively. Explode explosively. Anywho, so they actually did figure that part out, and they went, okay, well, we're not running that way. So they ran to the north up this direction, and then the goblin showed up. I had rolled randomly before the session. I said, okay, there's 5 players. So on the first round, there will be 3 goblins. On the second round, there will be 2 goblins. And on the third round, there will be 3 more goblins that show up. So it'd be a total of, or so there was only 4 players there. So it would be a total of 8, a total of double the players over 3 rounds. So if they're active in killing those goblins, no problem at all. Now, you might see a problem in this plan where one of the players ran away very rapidly. Well, the other 3 didn't fare so good. So I had rolled before what direction the goblins came from. I just rolled a d4 8 times and said, 1, 2, 3, 4. First round, 2 were from the top, 1 was from the bottom. Second round, 1 from each side. And then the third round, I think it was like 1 from over here and 2 from the bottom. Well, that's exactly what happened. So 2 goblins show up right in front of the erstwhile PCs, and they attempted to fight. Obviously rolls were not great. That wasn't really the intention. I did power down these goblins a little bit. So let me talk through that a little bit. I kind of had them as like they're crazed mad. Like they went through some ritual before to just go insane. And so they had no power over their mind. They had disadvantage on any checks other than attack rolls. But they didn't have advantage on attack rolls. They had a rusty knife because there were so many goblins. There's no way they could have supplied them all with good weapons. So these rusty knives that dealt 1d4 minus 1 damage. So they could actually deal 0 even on a successful attack because, it's more fun that way, first of all. And second of all, it's super great to, like when you're in this harrowing adventure to have, sometimes maybe the enemies aren't just going to destroy you immediately. So, apologize. They also lost their nimble escape ability. So they had no way to really get away from someone, and that kind of wasn't the point. They were crazed. They were mad. They weren't going to try and escape. They were just running up to the first body that they saw and were trying to kill it and burn down whatever they saw. So, pretty rapidly, Urza and Taco went down and started making death saving throws. Honestly, it wasn't even bad rolls on the side of the players and good rolls on the side of the goblins. It was just kind of, they weren't equipped. You can't do much if you don't grab something. And I had all kinds of stuff staffed throughout the village. There's a butcher shop. That's what it was. Butcher shop over here. General store over there. That's what it was. Butcher shop has like cleavers and hooks with meat on it, or just meat hooks in general, and like big old slabs of haunches of beef to smack something with. And the general store had a few kind of cheap looking swords, that were pretty cheaply made. And the blacksmith had, farm tools, and I kitted out farm tools to be, different damage types and things like that. If you went into the mayor's mansion, you could find, as long as you knew what you were looking for, but you could find a rapier hidden under his bed. And if you went into the abandoned mansion, and I have not had anyone go into the mansion as part of the actual adventure, but I really think it would be great if they did, because inside is a magic weapon. So if you bust in the mansion, you got to make some strength checks, to bust through the windows, but they're pretty rotted. So I made it pretty easy, but you still got to do it. But if you get in, you can see this huge mace above the front door, hanging on a plaque. And if you pull it down, you can feel the power from it. And it's a +3 mace, or sorry, a +1 mace that functions as a +3 when fighting. Oh, right, when dealing damage to something that is undamaged. And I wrote out a whole story about it and what it is and who it's from and this whole thing. Would have been great. No one's ever gone for it. So I guess whatever, but that's not the point. The point is that it exists. But these players just thought, I got some crappy knives and I got my wits and I'm going to get out of this. They didn't. Funny that. So Urza and Taka went down. They start making death saving throws. Neither rolled a 20, but neither died. So they're just laying unconscious in the middle of town as these fires are encroaching. On the first round, the outside of the outside buildings are on fire, and then slowly the fire creeps inward. On round 2, the granary starts to light up. On round 3, it explodes. If you're close by, then you don't take any damage because I didn't want to punish that much, but you do get pushed, and if you run into something, you take some damage. It also puts out the bonfire from the force of the blow, and you could end up prone. Just really bad stuff. So if you're nearby that, I think they're like 20 feet or something like that, then it could be some really bad news. And round 3 comes around. Charity is hanging on. She was doing great, avoiding attacks, took the dodge action a couple times, and ends up kind of figuring out how to run between these two buildings that were pretty long, but had only a 5-foot space between them. So she throws down some barrels behind her and runs through, and the goblins are mad. Remember, they're nuts. They're crazed and in this battle frenzy. So they're not going to run around. They're going to try and just follow you wherever you go. And so they had to make a check to jump over the barrels because barrels were too tall. One succeeded, one didn't. That one succeeds. She catches him at the other side and just pummels him to death with her knife. And the other one finally starts to follow, and she goes running and manages to get around a space where the goblin couldn't see her, but she had 1 hit point left. And she said, I'm going to hide in the remains of the granary. And I said, well, it's really hot. But make a medicine check. Let's see if you think it'll injure you. And she succeeded. It was like a 20-something nuts. And I said, okay, yeah, you don't think it would hurt you to be in there. It's just going to be really uncomfortable. She said, okay. So she went to hide in the rubble. And I said, all right, give me your stealth check. Okay. I'm going to roll the goblin's perception. He's going to take his action to look for you. And I rolled in front of the players, and he succeeded. And so he found her. But this goblin was faster than she was. So he caught up and killed her. And then, so we're on death saving throws at this point. Urza and Taco succeed, and Charity fails. And so once again, my wife's character dies. I say that because the first time that I ran this adventure, she died, I want to say 6 times across 2 years. The second time we ran this game, I think she died twice across 6 months. I love my wife. She's a fantastic person, but her characters die quite frequently. And so she went down, failed saving throws, and went from there. Matt, having gotten out of the fire, finds himself outside of town. Now, I had designed this adventure with the idea that the players fight these goblins in town center. Maybe they take some damage, maybe they're not so good. But after that, they kind of realize that some of the screams have died down, and they realize that most of the people in town are dead, if not all. Even if anyone's alive, there's no way they could rescue them. The granaries exploded. all of the town square is on fire, and they need to get out. And so I said, okay, well, if you defeat all the goblins, then you can take whatever time you need to get out. You can be careful. You can avoid, problematic spaces. You're not just running for your life. And so you get to get out. And so you get your choice. You can go north, south, east, or west. Well, north is probably the best way to go. If you go north, you find a merchant caravan that is overturned, and clearly the bodies of the merchants and their guards dead nearby. So if you turn over the caravan, or even just empty everything out from underneath it, you can sleep there for the night, safe and sound. You also find, if you go looking through everything that was there, you find a map of the kingdom, and of kind of major landmarks, which is pretty big, just to be able to have some sort of reference for where you're going once you actually get on the adventure itself. Not necessary by any means, but I'll mention probably in 2 or 3 videos that having that map meant that they knew where 3 different landmarks were instead of only 1. Because they didn't have the appropriate knowledges to know where all 3 of them are, because they all come from different knowledge skills. So if you have a very diverse party, chances are you'll know all 3. But with the map, you're guaranteed. So Matt, with the body of Smalls, finds his merchant caravan, finds this map, and beds down for the night to try and avoid whatever goblin patrols might be coming by. If he had gone in any other direction, he would have died. No question. If you go to the south, you find that the road, or rather the grass on the sides of the road, are very overgrown. It's not as well maintained as the path to the north. And so small characters, namely halflings, because remember, the town is humans, dwarves, and halflings. Halflings are able to hide in the grass without even trying. They don't even have to make a check. But other species are also able to hide. And he might have been able to hide, but you then hear a scouting party, and that's 2 goblin archers and 1 goblin with a sword, and none of them are crazed. There's only the 3 of them. And so you have to fend them off. But being able to hide, small creatures, if they're in the grass, they're immediately hidden. They can make their attacks, but as long as you're not within 5 feet of someone, you are hidden. They have to go looking for you. And medium creatures can hide, but they have to actively do it. But it allows them to hide in basically plain sight. And so he probably would have tried to hide in the grass, but I don't know if he would have succeeded, because he wasn't proficient in stealth. But he'd have a relatively high dex. If he had gone to the east, then you run into the Haunted Forest, which is simultaneously a really hard fight and a really easy fight if you're smart. So you find a cave, not a long cave, but a shallow cave where you could sleep for the night and stay relatively safe. But you hear some goblins, and they say they can smell humans. But they're also clearly scared about the forest. They know that the forest is haunted too. And so no matter what, the goblins are going to find you, because the cave's not hidden. And it is dark, but they'll go in and find you. And so there you have, I believe it was 5 goblin archers, basically. They also have, cheap-looking short swords. But if you defend them, then the spirits of the forest, that are spirits of the town long forgotten, will come to rescue you. So you get aided by 2 ghosts, or shadows, I don't remember, but non-malevolent, incorporeal undead. And so the fight is kind of even, even though you're low on hit points and just trying to get through, there's 5 goblins out there, and they're not crazed and mad and gonna run headlong into battle. They're gonna be smart. These incorporeal undead, the spirits of your great ancestors, will defend you and can help out a lot. And if you go to the west, you find a root cellar that has not burned down somehow. It's separated from all of the hello, Zach. I'm telling the exploits of Matt, and how dare he run from the group. So if you escape to the west, then you run into a root cellar. I apologize. I'm sorry. I apparently had a bad dinner. You run into a root cellar that is not burned down and that you can hide in. It was not the only real choice, not even close. So you can hide in the root cellar. There's no lock on it. Inside, you actually find some food. You find some canned, old, rather jarred, not canned, because canning isn't really a thing yet, but jarred old root vegetables. And if you eat them, you can regain 1 hit point, but you have to make a constitution check to not start vomiting because it's old canned stuff. And that's just gross. Not pickles, bad pickles. So then the problem comes in. You can hear Goblin Patrol outside. Now, this one's 5 goblins, again, and you don't have the help of spirits to aid you in your fight. But as long as you're quiet, they won't come into the root cellar. So now the question is, did your players eat these things and did they succeed on their constitution saves? If they did, they can be quiet. No problem at all. If they're not, they are puking their guts out. So someone's going to have to quiet them down or stop them somehow or knock them out just to stop them, something like that. So it's really supposed to be this tense moment of like, can we be quiet to stop that, let that patrol just go by and evade us. But yeah, no, Matt went the right way because of course he did. He went north and found the map. Matt then, the night turns down. Dawn comes, and he wakes up, and so do Urza and Taco, and they can see the temples are still standing, and they are emitting bright beams of light into the sky. And so even out of town, you can see these 2 beams of light that are calling you back. And so Matt says, all right, well, Smalls is still knocked out. I'm going to put her in the caravan and just start heading back to town. Urza and Taco wake up and see the temples and all of the dead around them, all of their friends, all of their family, everyone really they've ever known dead around them, with buildings razed to the ground, except for the temples. So he head there too. Matt gets back to town. On the way, he looks away for just a moment just to stare at the sunrise and looks back, and Smalls is gone. No idea what could have happened. No idea what could have taken her. But he says, I have to go onward. So he heads to the temple. Urza and Taco are pissed, rightfully. And they have a little moment like, hey, I get it. You had to save your buddy. But, dick move, bro. And they head into the temples together. They head into the temples and meet a black eternity. The doors don't even close. They're just suddenly in this nothing. Out of that nothing walks 2 figures. A man shining and golden in body and armor, carrying a shield and a mace. It shines like the sun itself. and a woman resplendent in the wild, with birds and antlers in her crazed hair that's bigger than her body, in no clothing, but wielding a sickle. It's just used enough that you know it had a purpose once. And the characters and the players realize they are standing in the presence of the two protectors of New Haven, Pelor and Melora. And the two speak in a kind but booming voice. You are the only survivors of the town of New Haven. You have been granted this opportunity not through our boon, but through your own courage and might and mettle. Courage was maybe going a little far. Through this axe, we will grant you power and abilities far beyond the ken of your previous minds. You will be granted powers to wreak havoc upon evil and the horrors of this world and the next. But you must do this willingly. So both gods stand there, say to each individual player, do you accept our boon, our power, and your purpose? And in turn, each one of them has the opportunity to say no. I've never had a player say no, but man, one of these days I kind of want to. I think that would be really cool to actually have the call to action and the denial. But they all thought for a moment and said, no, I will avenge my town. I will avenge my family. I will find whoever this was and I will destroy them and everything they hold dear as I have. And so the gods speak. What would happen if we said no? Then you would continue on. You would be peasants and returned back home to do with your life as you will. I believe firmly that the call to action must be voluntary. The god, you are not a cleric. You have not bound yourself to this being. You have to accept their boon. You have to accept their power in a way that a cleric or a warlock or something or a sorcerer may not necessarily. And so they accepted. The gods spoke one last time and said, go then to the west. Seek out the evil there and destroy it. The blackness envelops their eyes. The gods disappear. And they find themselves standing in the noonday sun back in the destroyed New Haven, razed to the ground, but with new marbled headstones all around. Bodies no longer found but buried, honorably, and with proper rites given by the gods that granted them this power and this boon. And off they went. They leveled up to 1, so Matt gained a level in Seeker of the Song, which is a custom class that his player and I have been working on for a little bit now. It's a lot of fun. I might link to that in the doobly-doo if he's okay with that. Ursa gained a level of Druid, and Taco gained a level of Ranger. And off they went to the west. Now, you may be asking, what about Charity? Well, Charity died, obviously played by my wife. So in that instance, if a player dies, then they get to make a new character that is level 1, that's done something. Previous times, I had a player who wanted to play someone who guards merchant caravans. Oh, perfect. Yeah. You've been working as a guard for a while. That's where you gained your level of rogue, and you were always kind of the lookout, out in the wilderness, kind of tracking and making sure that there was no ambushes coming up, things like that. So that's where you gained your level. You happened to be coming towards town, heading down into Sufton, and that's where totally. And that's where you found this group as they're leaving town. I had another one. Oh God, who else has died and played new characters? Oh, right. When my wife died the first time, she played a human wizard that was evil, but was trying to see what good felt like. Yeah, welcome to the way she plays games. It was great, actually. It was a great character, Balina. And Balina just happens to be heading this direction, just happens to meet the party and says, "Oh, you seem like good people. I should spend time with you." This time, my wife played a character called Sunshine of the Occult Crescendo, a half-elf paladin. And I think I'll introduce her next video, because it's truly a unique scenario in so many ways. But yeah, there we go. That was the first session. Like I said, I've run this particular adventure many times. This is probably the part I'm most excited about publishing, because I think it's a really interesting way to start a campaign. It's what I call my funky method, where you're in this, Edenic, solid state world, the beginning of the adventure, just a generic village celebrating a harvest festival, when suddenly the worst thing possible occurs, and you have to figure out how to survive, how to stand to the challenge. I don't know if I don't know if this group really stood to the challenge necessarily, but they tried, and they did succeed. Only one died of 4, though the other 2 easily could have. I think they were both actually on their final roll, on their 5th roll. They had 2 death save fails, 2 death save successes, and were on their final roll and just managed to succeed. So it can be a very deadly encounter. It can be a very deadly intro. I think that's on purpose. I want this to kind of set a tone without setting a tone. The world is dangerous, especially to peasants. This is not a place where you're going to encounter, 1 or 2 goblins in a room and that's it. This is a world where there are hordes of the enemy, and they are ready to destroy civilization as you know it, because they don't like it. They have no time for that. They are a chaotic race, and they are a chaotic race, and are happy to let their leaders rule through fear, not through laws. They are not bound up into a true society. They're bound up into coalitions and hordes and loose-fitting bands of mad goblins ready to destroy a town at a moment's notice. I think that's really the power of this game and this adventure, is it is about the chaos and the evil that can beget when it's implemented properly, especially by someone with a little bit more power. But that's something we'll get into a little bit later about this campaign. Well, I think that's what this campaign diary is. Next time, we're going to head to the west. We're going to meet Sunshine of the Occult Crescendo. We're going to get close to, but not inside, of a goblin fortress, and truly the harrowing adventure that will define the beginning of these heroes' careers. On that note, my office hours are closed. We'll see you next Tuesday, 7 p.m. General Mountain Time. Have a good night.